Welcome to the Spotlight FX Studio. Thanks for joining us today to learn more about the Field FX product suite. I'm Travis Parigi, the founder of Liquid Frameworks, and I'm happy to have Matt Dana, the Field FX product manager, join us today. We're going to talk about complex pricing in Field FX and how Field FX empowers our customers to model the very complex contracts that we see in the oil and gas space, in the industrial service provider space, as well as the environmental response space. These contracts can oftentimes have many moving parts and a lot of different rules and attributes associated with them. And our customers need to be able to model those in Field FX so that they can generate a ticket, a quote, and an invoice in an accurate and timely fashion so that they're contract compliant with these contracts, so that DSO is minimized and that cash flow is maximized. So today I thought what we would do is start with really the high level, very beginning, which is what are the different kinds of price books that we most commonly see out there at customer sites?
Yeah, mostly depending on the industry you're talking about, but a lot of times what we'll see is contracted based pricing. So MSA based pricing, meaning that you have agreed upon with your customer that you are going to charge them this amount for this line item under these conditions, et cetera. We also support standards pricing as well. So for call out work, maybe you don't have MSA-based pricing with every operator. Maybe it's just for every, you have that for some, but for others you don't, and so you may need a standard price book. I've also seen to where you can have region-based pricing, country-based pricing. So you may have the USA, your USA pricing, you may have your Asia Pacific pricing, so on and so forth.
So what about some of the details of the way the mechanics work inside of those price books, as far as what if I had kits or packages? I mean, tell me a little bit about what I might be able to do with respect to those types of packages of items.
That's a good question. So a lot of times what we'll see is that you may have a kit of items that comes together, and in a paper-based world, someone needs to go in and they need to line out every single line item that is a part of that kit to make sure that everything is captured. One of the features that we support is the ability to associate items with other items. And so you add the kit and everything that is a part of that kit comes along for the ride. So this makes sure that, for one, that you're capturing all the items that you potentially can bill for. If the items, if you don't need to show the child items, you just want to show the parent kit to the customer, then you can do that, but you still want to capture all these child items as part of the kit so that you can accurately track your cost.
That's cool. So what about layering our CPQ module into the mix, which I know we have another FX Spotlight video out there, but what about bringing that into the mix so that maybe that field engineer doesn't have to build out every piece of that kit? Yep. Can CPQs be used to do something along the lines with kitting? Yeah,
that's a good question as well. And so one thing that we see is that a lot of times, rather than having to have the kits predefined, maybe it's dependent on job conditions that are unknown until the time of service. And so what that manifests itself as to the user is a series of questions. You add a parent item and it asks you a series of questions. In succession, you answer these questions, and then the CPQ module will execute, figure out which items you need to bill, and automatically build that kit out for you.
That's great. So that kit could be dynamically created on the fly.
Correct.
And that works offline, I'm assuming.
That's correct. Online and offline as part of quoting and or ticketing.
So I've got the ability to do hierarchical items, so kits, bundles, packages of items. What about hierarchical price books? How does that work in the system, and what can I do with that?
Yeah, so hierarchical pricing, the use case is that you may have contracted pricing with your customer that contains 100 items. That 100 items, maybe a level above that, you have your Permian-based pricing, and that has 1,000 items in it. Maybe you have your USA-based pricing, which has 10,000 items, and then you have your global price book, which has 1,000,000 items in it. As a user or a salesperson who's trying to do a quote, you don't want to be limited to only charging your customer what's in that leaf level price book, that lowest level price book. So through the hierarchical pricing that we support, you can look up through the hierarchies to figure out what the correct pricing is for something that may not be in the MSA itself.
That's great. There are a lot of details here in complex pricing, lots of moving parts. We have the ability to do a whole bunch of different things. We've actually got an entire webinar dedicated to this topic, and I would certainly encourage those that want or need more information on complex pricing to go and take a look at that webinar. It goes over things at a much more comprehensive level, but I want to stick it at sort of a medium high level here and go a little bit further with this. So beyond hierarchical pricing, What about overriding prices and costs and getting that to work in concert with what you've already described?
Yeah, so we have features and functionality that allow for exception-based pricing, so that if something falls outside of the norm and a price needs to be overridden based on some job parameters that maybe you're not using CPQ, but maybe you need to override the price or the cost or the discount or some other attribute, we have an override pricing which allows you to do that.
That's great. Well, complex pricing inside of Field FX, of course, works not only in the back office side of things, but we take it out to the field. We carry it from price books to quoting to jobs to tickets all the way to invoicing. It really is the spinal cord that runs along the entire product suite. So as I mentioned, there's a great webinar out there. I would encourage you to go take a look at that. And of course, we have many other great Spotlight FX videos out there that talk about all the other modules that Field FX brings to the table, and I'd encourage you to take a look at those as well. Thanks a ton for explaining all this, Matt. Really appreciate your time, and we certainly appreciate your time for watching our Spotlight FX Studio videos. Thank you.